my YouTube channel. So I have created a playlist specifically for MedTerm. So if you need to go in, you want to review some of the lecture, those lectures are on my YouTube under their own playlist for you. So you can go in and do that. All right, so yesterday we were talking about some of the specializations that we see in the integumentary system. We had our horns. Tell me the part of the skull that the horns are an extension of. The frontal. Yep. We also talked a little bit about goats and how they're disgusting. Goats are gross. Don't tuck your pants in your boots. We did discuss that yesterday, didn't we? Yeah. You will get goat urine and you will get testicles in your boots. And it's gross. So that's about it. We can do some dehorning. Dehorning, though, is pretty brutal. If you've ever seen dehorning, you actually have to go in and take part of the skull because otherwise the horns will grow back, but they'll grow back odd. And, oh, it's terrible. It's awful. Well, I never got into large animal medicine. It's too brutal. It's too brutal for me. All right, finally we have our antlers. Now the big difference between antlers and horns. Antlers are made of bone. Horns are made of keratin. The other thing is that with our antlers, they're going to shed and then regrow. And there are some some hardcore pictures, especially of moose as they're growing, and because they'll shed their antlers, regrow them, and they have this very soft vascular velvet on them, and the velvet will begin to shed, and it looks like they have these big bloody strips of flesh hanging off of their antlers. Oh yeah, if you've ever seen some hardcore pictures, and they'll eat it. Yeah, so you'll have this, deer with this big bloody piece of flesh coming off of his own antler. Oh, it's hardcore. You want some pretty weird rockin' pictures. Take a look at that. So it's covered in velvet and then it gets rubbed off. And here's a picture right here of the new horns, new antlers. And all of this stuff coming off is velvet. So that's pretty much it. They're pretty devastating with those. We just talked about deers and how they'll kill your car. And they can put some holes in you with those antlers. Holy smokes. The antlers and the hubs, those are the two parts you gotta be careful of. My significant other, he has a coworker who lives in, where does he live? Utah. And just sent a video that his neighbor took. Oh my gosh, you guys. So the neighbor is taking a video out of her window of this coworker of my significant other's house. And there's a moose. And their dog comes out and starts barking at the moose. And the moose slapped at him. Dog survived. Can't believe the dog survived. And the moose attacked it. Moose, they look like they're super chill, but moose will kill you faster than pretty much anything else. They're one of the most dangerous animals on the planet. Moose.
Are they as big as they're said to be?
They're bigger than what they're said to be.
Oh,
they are bigger.
My son's grandmother lives in Alaska, and it's common for people to call into work if there's a moose outside of their house.
Yeah. In fact, it's common in this, because they're in like northern Utah, it's common to leave if you have your car outside. I think it's the same in Alaska. Nobody locks their cars. And the reason for that is if you're walking and see a moose, you're just going to dive into whatever car is right next to you. So everybody leaves their cars unlocked as a safety. And my significant other was doing some work in Utah with this gentleman. And he's driving in his rental car. And he pulls up into the driveway. And my SO, he's like, oh my God, look, there's a little baby moose. What scared the crap out of me. There's a little baby moose right there. And he's like enthralled, and he goes and he's gonna get out of the car, and the guy is screaming at him, get back in the car. His mama's right there. Mama will mess you up. Mama tip that car over. Yeah, they are bigger than what you would anticipate.
Yeah, I've seen an elk, and it's like a deer and a horse had a child. So the moose is bigger than that.
Yes. By probably double. Yeah. Moose, I would not probably reach the shoulder of the moose. Think Clydesdale. Clydesdale horses. That's about how big a moose is. I got an opportunity to meet the Clydesdale horses, like in a private VIP. It wasn't really VIP. We had a faculty member who used to be part of their drive team. So when they came here a couple years ago, several years ago, we had to go see them. And this Clydesdale, okay, I know I'm a short little person. I'm like 5. You know what? I'm gonna just do it. I'm 5'4". I'm adding that last quarter inch. I am 5'4". And the horse, I was standing full height, and this is the bottom of the horse's head. I could look up like this, and this was the lower jaw of the horse. I could reach up like this and pet it. That's a moose. So, crazy. Yeah, the hooves on these Clydesdales, bigger than my head. They're crazy. They're crazy humongous. All right, so that finishes up our integumentary system. Yeah, don't mess with moose. All right. Now we are going to be moving on to something that gets my gears going. The heart, the cardiovascular system. These are now going into the internal workings of the body. We've now finished the external. We're now going internal. And again, as I've done before, I'm going to leave it on this non-presentation mode so that we all have an opportunity to make sure that we're copying down the exact word-for-word answers that Ms. Rivera is expecting us to. Cardio meaning heart, vascular meaning blood vessels. We have this closed circuit of tubing whose entire purpose is to transport stuff around our bodies. We've been talking in anatomy about how we move stuff in and out of cells. This is the transport system that gets that stuff to the cell. We have oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, proteins, amino acids, all having to be transported to different areas. We've got cells making proteins. Remember, we had our transcription, translation, and then we have our ribosomes that make and fold the little proteins, send it to the Golgi apparatus, puts the shipping label on, spits it out of the cell. This is what transports it wherever it needs to go. These systems all work together. They are not autonomous. You don't just have the cell doing just this job. Everything is in everybody else's business. It's like a tiny little town. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows what everybody's doing. So this cardiovascular system does include, this kind of a no-brainer. It's right there in the title of the system. Cardio includes the heart, the blood vessels. We have blood vessels that carry oxygenated blood, and we have blood vessels that carry deoxygenated blood. So when we breathe in, we take in oxygen molecules. We have blood cells that pick up those oxygen molecules, transport them to cells, drop them off. They then pick up a shipment of carbon dioxide, bring that back, so now it's deoxygenated, bring that back to the heart and lungs, we breathe it out. The blood is a liquid tissue. I love that definition, liquid tissue. Blood is made of cells and liquid, that's it. It's very, very simple, but also pretty complex. We've got red blood cells, which are the transportation cells. We have white blood cells, which are the immunity. They are the military combating stranger danger. We got platelets, which are your Spider-Man cells, which help to prevent any tearing and repair any holes. We have plasma and serum. Plasma and serum are essentially the exact same thing. They are the fluid of the blood. The big difference is that plasma still has clotting factors. Serum does not. And then overall circulation. We have this wonderful pump that pumps. It's the most reliable pump on the planet. We've not even, with all of the technology that we discussed earlier with the nanobots, with the ghost heart, growing organs, we haven't even come close to replicating what the heart can do. We have had some success in artificial hearts. There's one I told you about earlier that is made of titanium. It's a very exciting, promising, and I can talk about that one because it has gone public, because otherwise I'm under an NDA, pretty substantial NDA. But this one is a company called Vivacor, and they've done a total heart replacement where you just remove the heart, put in this machine. But the thing that's super exciting and the thing we haven't been able to replicate is the self-modulation. What do I mean by that? So you guys are climbing the stairs. What has happened to your need for oxygen? It goes up. So what has happened to your respirations? They've increased. What happens to your heart rate? It goes up. But how did it do that? I mean, did you have to think about it? Was it a conscious decision? No, we have sensors. And we have these sensors that go, as you're climbing the stairs, your oxygen levels are dropping and your body goes, uh-oh. Okay, everybody, oxygen levels are dropping. We're gonna need to compensate for this. Lungs, you guys need to start working a little bit faster. Heart, you need to be pumping a little bit faster. The problem is with a mechanical heart is they don't have any of these sensors. And so when you're coming up the stairs, your heart will stay the same rate. And you will have to, this is actually really funny. You're gonna have this little bag, this little purse. It's got a little dial. You turn the dial and speed it up. Turn it down, slow it down. You're gonna do it manually. Okay, not the best idea. Yeah, no, because consciously we can't gauge that. So that's why this Vivacor has been really exciting because it does have the sensors and it will speed up and slow down all by itself. So kind of cool, biomechanical beings coming at you right now. All right, so what is the heart? The heart is also known as our cardiac muscle. It is made of a very specialized muscle cell called cardiac myocytes, cardiomyocytes. Now, y'all know, I can't draw on there. Y'all know the heart does not look like that, right? I'm just making sure. I don't want to assume. That is not what your heart looks like. Your heart, okay, here's, Doug is all over the place right now because he's so excited to talk about the heart right now. Okay, so your heart actually looks like this. Not quite kidney bean shape. Let's get that kidney bean shape. Nope, we don't have DCM. There. Do what? I don't know if I can do that without doing it. I can't. You know what? I'll do it like this. Wow, that's fancy. What? Okay, you know I did not make this PowerPoint. You know I did not do that. All right, we'll just do it like this. All right, guys, so you in TV land, let's get red for the heart. What I was saying is you guys all know that the heart does not look like this, right? Yeah. Now I can erase this one. Your heart is a hollow cone shape. Looks a little bit more like this. How do we get this? You what? That's exactly right. You guys are exactly right. You stole my trivia. If I put two hearts together, it makes that iconic shape for love. I'm not the most romantic person on the planet. So it is a hollow cone shape. It is very muscular, but the interesting thing about this cardiac musculature is it varies. One side has super, super thin muscle wall. Other side has super, super thick muscle wall. And it has 4 chambers. We're going to talk about these chambers and what do they do. It straddles the midline, and it is tipped slightly to the left. That's it. It is protected by our sternum and our ribs. So I'm not killing myself by giving myself a little pat in the chest. And it works in tandem with our lungs. And again, the big thing for our heart is it's simply a method of transportation for things around the body. And then varies in size by species. Okay, that's kind of what I call a no duh. Right? A 2-pound kitten, and then blow your minds, guys. A 2-pound kitten, shockingly, has a smaller heart than a 140-pound Great Dane. A moose has a larger heart than me. In fact, if you want a real super deep dive, they have these really cool videos on, I think they're on the YouTube, of different animal necropsies. Necropsy is the term for an autopsy, but in animals. And they do these necropsies and kind of show the different anatomy. Like I know that they've done one on a giraffe, and they did one on an elephant. And there was one, they didn't do it on the whale, but they were showing a whale heart. And the valve, so the largest whale may not have even been the largest. I think it was a blue whale.
Yeah, blue whale Volkswagen.
Yeah, I could stand in just the valve. And it's like a door. It's taller than a door. Like I could go into the whale heart and just make a little tiny house out of it. Like have a 4-room house. I know, right? I totally want to live in a whale heart. Wow, the direction these conversations go with us, guys, gets a little weird. What's happening? There. All right, so what exactly is this beautiful organ? Well, it circulates blood, nourishes, and removes waste. It is the most simple definition, a pump. And it pumps stuff. That's pretty much it. It's gonna pump oxygen and nutrients and molecules and proteins and amino acids. Because remember, our cells, that's all stuff every single cell in your body needs. It needs oxygen, it needs nutrients. We're gonna need to transport, oh, I don't know, phosphorus to maintain the phospholipid bilayer. We're gonna need to transport lipids. We're gonna need to transport, again, phosphate. Isn't that kind of how our cells get energy? They need a phosphate molecule to reassemble the ATP. And our cells are producing proteins, and our cells are producing waste. And it is the heart pumping that transports all of this stuff where it needs to go. It's gonna send the waste to the kidneys. Some of it goes to the liver, most of it goes to the kidneys. It's gonna send the nutrients to help nourish our cells. It's gonna send the amino acids to the ribosomes and allow them to make the proteins. It's gonna send those proteins all over the body where they need to go. So without the heart, you are not getting the nourishing as well as getting rid of the waste, and that is why you die. Because your brain is very, very sensitive to a lack of oxygen. In fact, I think we talked about, remember, this, not this. In about 90 seconds, you will be rendered unconscious, probably less. I don't understand the human race sometimes. I'm waiting for my alien brethren to come pick me up because I really am done living on this planet, quite frankly. We all know I'm an alien. I'm technically a legal alien, but still, you get the idea. But apparently, from what I hear, is it raises its head every now and then that children do this on purpose. It's called the, I don't know, what, the pass out game, or, and what they do is they apply pressure to either side here, occlude the oxygen going to the brain, the child passes out, and apparently when they come to, it's this feeling of euphoria, kind of like a little bit of a high. The problem with that is you've now destroyed like millions of brain cells. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Kids are dying. It's not worth it. Although I guess it's a better way than eating a Tide Pod. Just saying. Talk about your shallow end of the gene pool. Anyway, I don't mean to digress. But your brain is very sensitive to a lack of oxygen. So if your heart stops pumping, your brain stops working, your body stops living. So where is it? The base of the heart. Okay, so I want to talk about these words base and apex for a minute, because I need to undo everything you know about these words. The word base. I don't need to draw it. The word base. When you think of the word base, you automatically associate it with bottom. But here's what I need you to undo in your mind. Base does not mean bottom. Base means support. Think about a Christmas tree. You have a Christmas tree. And I know you guys are going, wait, but the base on this is where? It's on the bottom. This is the base, it's the support. However, let me ask you this. If I am a weird hipster, I'm gonna turn my head upside down to do it. And I have one of those weird hanging upside down Christmas trees. Have you guys heard of these? Tell me where the base is now. If I'm hanging it from the ceiling, that's the base. Base means support. Where is it being supported from? There is an instrument in the band that supports the beat and the tempo. The bass drum and the bass guitar. There is an area in your house that we just, there's an area in our cells that supports the cell and allows it to grow. The basement membrane. So base means support. That would be why when I am looking at this heart and it is suspended just like my upside down Christmas tree, this is the base. Think of the heart just like an upside down Christmas tree, suspended from the ceiling. This is the base. This is the apex. And apex just means come to some kind of point, right? If you are looking at a triangle hierarchy, and the one that's on the top, what kind of predator is that? The apex predator, because it's right there at the top, at the point of the triangle. So base, apex. So that is really important, because everything you know about the word base is wrong. It does not mean bottom, it means support. So the base is located cranially, the apex is located caudally, and it's shifted slightly to the left. Do I have any comments, questions, concerns about any of that? Everybody's okay?
Miss Huff,
Yes.
are you saying support or port?
Support. Like it is supported. It is the attachment parts for every attachment the heart has is on the cranial end at the base. This apex of the heart, there's no attachments to anything. It's just hanging there like a chandelier. All of our attachments, all of our support is here at the cranial end. So again, you think of it like a hanging Christmas tree or think of it like a chandelier. All of the wiring and all of the hanging bits are here. And then the chandelier hangs free. We have this really fibrous membrane that surrounds our heart. And this fibrous membrane helps to keep the heart from getting all tangled up. The heart is constantly beating, but we have these other two organs very close proximity on either side. And so we have this fibrous kind of sac, this fibrous bag, that helps to keep it from getting tangled, but also helps to prevent friction. I don't want my heart every time it beats to rub on my lungs. This bag, this sac, is known as the pericardium. Peri meaning around the heart. So we have this picture right here. And what this picture's done is I have made a hole here in this pericardial sac, and I folded it down a little bit. So now I can see the heart muscle exposed. So this is the outside of the sac. And then if I look right here where I folded it down, this is the inside that lays closest to the heart. Is everybody with me on that? Did I lose anyone off the bus? All right, so we have, oh my gosh, look at this, guys. We've seen those words before. Hooray. Some of you are looking at like, I've never seen those words before ever in my life, Miss Huff. No, you have. And I know because I taught them to you. So, parietal and visceral. These are the layers. Remember, parietal is the layer that faces the cavity. Visceral was the layer that faces the organ. These are the two layers, descriptions of our pericardium. We have the layer that faces the cavity and the layer that faces the organ. And then we have a little space in between this sac. So you want to really, I don't think I brought my, all right, so I'm going to have to mime it. So my hand is now my heart. And I have a plastic target bag right here. I'm going to put the target bag over my hand. Right, the part of the target bag that you're seeing right now, parietal, the part of the target bag that is on my hand, visceral. But do you see how there's a space in between my heart and the bag? That space is filled with a special kind of fluid. It's just a lubricant. And it is known as pericardial fluid. So that's it. Just all these terms that we already learned in our other A&P class. That's amazing. All right, so the walls of the heart. We're now talking specifically about the musculature. We have the outer, the muscular, and the inner layers of the heart. You've already learned this terminology as well. You have the epicardium, the myocardium, and the endocardium. Epi meaning outer, myo meaning muscle, endo meaning inner. So if I have, inflammation of the inside of my heart. You got it? Endocarditis. Endocarditis. Trying to think of. If you have a condition in the heart muscle. So we'll just break it down. I'm not going to tell you, but I will give you some hints. Word for heart, cardio. Word for muscle, myo. Word for condition or disease of. Yeah, apathy.
Cardiomyopathy.
Cardiomyopathy is a condition or a disease relating to the heart muscle. When you guys get into canine feline diseases, you're going to learn about things like dilated cardiomyopathy, hypertrophic oh my God, that's a $10 word if we ever heard one. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, hyper-excessive trophic formation of the heart muscle. Let's break it down. So all of these conditions have to do specifically with these layers. There's a creepy rule of 3, by the way. Here's another example of our creepy rule of three. 3 layers to our heart muscle. So as we're looking at this, part. Here is the inside of our chamber. So that's the endocardium. This is the muscle itself. And then we have the epicardium and the pericardium. The part of the pericardium, okay, I'm going to use all of the words. Let's see if you can follow this. The part of the pericardium that lies on the epicardium is the visceral pericardium. I lost a few of you. Okay. Yeah, it's bouncy. I get it. All right. Why don't I have my pen? No. It won't let me do a pen. Oh. Off. Back in here. Well, that didn't work. All right. So I think I have 2 pictures here that I can explain. There. You guys are so smart. All right. So what I have here, this is the endocardium. The myocardium, actually all of this, and the epicardium. Everybody with me? This white part here is the pericardium. Explain what I was talking about here. I'm going to do this carefully. All right, so the part here, come on. So this outside part here, the epicardium, the part of the pericardium that lies on the epicardium is known as the visceral pericardium. Did that clear it up a little bit? Because remember, visceral means it's the layer pointing towards the organ. Parietal means it is the layer facing away from the organ. So here, this is the endocardium, this is the inside, this is the myocardium, epicardium. Those are my 3 layers. I have my pericardium, this is my sac. The layer that is facing towards the muscle is the visceral pericardium. The layer that faces away is the parietal pericardium. So that's what I was saying, is that the visceral pericardium lies closest to the epicardium of the heart. Where's my... All right, do I have any comments, questions, concerns about any of that? Fabulous. I don't like this bouncing. I don't like it. It's too fancy. All right, so now what we need to do is talk about the chambers. We're going to spend some time on the chambers. We have 4 chambers. We have 2 cranial chambers, and we have 2 caudal chambers. And the great thing is the 2 cranial chambers are named the same thing, and the 2 caudal chambers are named the same thing. The 2 cranial chambers are known as the atria. That's the plural for atrium. You have a right atrium, and you have a left atrium. These are separated by valves from the caudal chambers, which are the ventricles. You have a right ventricle, and you have a left ventricle. I don't think I'm telling you any shocking information at this point. So it is hollow, and it is meant to have a wee bit of stretch, because as a shipment of blood, and it just basically, the shipment of blood, just like an assembly line, is moving from chamber to chamber, and the heart really is just kind of a way station. It's just a waiting area. The atrium, the whole point of the atria is to hold blood in preparation for when its corresponding ventricle is ready for it. You guys, okay, in my mind, when you guys are getting ready to take attendance, and you're sitting there with your finger over the enter button, and you are ready to hit that enter button, in my mind, you're kind of like the atria. You're in a holding pattern until you are asked to do a task. The atria is just simply hanging on to that blood until the ventricle is ready to use it, and then there is no delay between the ventricle asking for it and the atria being able to provide it. So the heart itself does take kind of a complicated, convoluted kind of pathway. Here's what I want to do though. I would like to show you this pathway of blood and the chambers of the heart on, I'm going to draw it in something like this first. And then what we're going to do is we are going to take the information and we're going to transpose it onto a real heart. But I think sometimes it's easier. Oh, you know what I want to do? Oh, this is fancy. There. We have 4 chambers to the heart. This heart is like it is in my body, which means that this is the right side of the heart. This is the left side of the heart. I know we all had trouble with that, with our left and our right. This is the right side. This is the left side because it's looking at you. Every picture that you see is going to be in this configuration. So this is the right, this is the left. Blood is going to come to the first chamber. And you don't have to be furiously writing. I've got some slides that'll demonstrate this as well. The right side of the heart is depicted in blue because it does not have any oxygen. We have dropped off our shipment of oxygen. We now have a shipment of carbon dioxide that we need to get rid of. We have little 18-wheeler tanker trucks that are lining up to get rid of their load, turn and burn, pick up a new load, and to head on out. So our blood enters the heart at the first chamber, the right atria. We have a gate that has 3 little leaflets. We call them cusps. These 3 little cusps, when our little tanker trucks are, when the ventricle is not ready for them, they close. And the little tanker trucks just stand there and wait. And then when the ventricle is ready, it opens. And all our blood floods here to the left, or not to the left ventricle, come on, right from left, and up to the right ventricle. If I have these 3 leaflets, and a leaflet's called a cusp, tell me what this valve is called. This is a tricuspid valve. So now my 18-wheeler tanker trucks that have a shipment of carbon dioxide are being held here in the right ventricle. It's just another holding area. I have another valve here that is closed until it's ready. This is known as the pulmonary semilunar. It's called a semilunar because it looks like a crescent moon. It looks like a half moon. When my lungs, this is going to my lungs, are ready, I tell this to open, and my tanker trucks continue along on the highway. They're going to leave the heart via this pulmonary artery. Tell me what the word pulmonary means. It means lungs. Artery is a type of blood vessel. Now, I got to talk to you a little bit about this before we get into the thick of things. Because this is where the heart, oh my gosh, the heart really is probably tied for my top favorite organ. GI tract, close right in there. Depends on my day. So normally, veins carry deoxygenated blood, meaning that the tanker trucks, the 18-wheeler trucks, are not carrying a shipment of oxygen when they're traveling along the highway of the vein. They are carrying oxygen when they travel on the highway of the artery. But here's the other thing about arteries that you need to know. Arteries always away. That is a non-negotiable. Arteries will always travel our trucks away from the heart. So in this case, that rule supersedes the other one. Because we had one rule that tanker trucks carrying no oxygen need to travel on the highway of veins. If the tanker trucks are carrying carbon dioxide, they've got to be on a vein. But the rule that oversees that is the rule arteries always away. So do you see how my tanker trucks are traveling away from the heart on this highway? That is why this highway is referred to as an artery, because that rule is number 1. That is the cardinal rule. If it's traveling away from the heart, it's an artery. Even though, what have I not picked up yet? I haven't picked up any oxygen. These tanker trucks have no oxygen in their cargo. These guys still have carbon dioxide because we haven't gotten to the lungs yet. So this is one of the few times in your body that an artery carries deoxygenated blood. Does that make sense to everybody? Did anybody fall off the bus with that? All right, so from my pulmonary artery, traveling away from the heart, I go to the lungs. It is in the lungs that I'm going to drop off my shipment of carbon dioxide. I'm going to pick up a shipment of oxygen, turn and burn. Now my 18-wheeler is carrying a shipment of oxygen. And it's going to return to the heart via the pulmonary vein. Because of the rule, arteries always away, this is one of the few areas in the body that a vein carries oxygen. Every other vein does not. So my little tanker trucks, now carrying their precious cargo of oxygen, return here to the left atrium. Holding pen, holding pen. They sit there and wait until they are called upon to move, and they move through this. This has 2 leaflets. Tell me what it's called. The bicuspid valve. Sometimes we also refer to it as mitral valve. It opens, and our blood moves forward to the left ventricle. Holding only. We have another crescent shape valve. It's closed, just waiting, making them wait. This is the aortic semilunar. And from here, we are now allowed to leave the heart, go cross country via the aortic artery. Because in what direction is it flowing? Away. So now my little tanker trucks, my little red blood cells, are turned and burned. They are driving away from the heart. They are taking their shipment of oxygen to everywhere, your baby toe. They drop off their shipment of oxygen at the cell. They pick up a shipment of carbon dioxide. They travel back to the heart, and it all starts again. They arrive at the right atrium, waiting. They travel through the gate known as the tricuspid to the right ventricle, waiting. They travel through the pulmonary semilunar to the pulmonary artery, away. To the lungs. Here they drop off their carbon dioxide. They pick up their oxygen. Turn and burn, baby, turn and burn. They return to the left atria by the pulmonary vein. This is towards vein. They go to the left atria, waiting. They travel through this gate known as the bicuspid to the left ventricle, waiting. They now go through the aortic semilunar, away from the heart, via the aortic artery. This is now, they're on the pipeline, they are on the highway. They're gonna go back to the baby toe, and the whole thing starts all over again. Those are the parts of the heart and the way that the blood flows through it. Does anybody have, boy, that's a mess. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns at this point? Yes.
So from the right, going into the right atria and going into both atrias, there's no valve.
No. There is a loose valve, but for our purposes, we don't need to delve into that.
So what are the lungs dropping off and picking up again?
What is the what?
The lungs.
So when you breathe in, I have taken in oxygen molecules. The tanker trucks come and pick up those oxygen molecules. And then they drop off in the lungs the carbon dioxide that I breathe out. So every time you breathe in, you're taking in a shipment And every time you breathe out, you're getting rid of a shipment. Two gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, and they just get exchanged one for the other. In the lungs, we drop off the CO2, pick up the O2. In the cells, we drop off the O2, pick up the CO2. Rinse and repeat. So let me show you this pathway on the anatomical heart. Now that we've got it slightly cleared in our minds, let me show you all right, let me show you blood. Oh, what happened to my pen? Blood enters here to the right atrium. Waiting. It travels, gosh, I need a different color, don't I? Here to the right atrium, waiting. To the tricuspid valve, right here, tricuspid, to the right ventricle, waiting. We're going to go out the semilunar valve, out to the lungs. We're going to return to the heart, left ventricle, wait. Bicuspid, wait. Left ventricle, wait. Aortic, semilunar, out the highway of the aortic artery. Everybody okay with that? Fabulous. So it's super duper uber important that we don't have any communication between the right and the left side of the heart. Why? Because if I move stuff you're absolutely right. If I move stuff directly from the right side to the left side, where did I not visit? The lungs. So what did I not pick up? Oxygen. Don't my cells need that? Yup. So now I have tanker trucks that are carrying carbon dioxide. Well, they can't drop that off, can they? A tanker truck can only carry so much. When it's full, it's full. So now it's tanker truck, this 18-wheeler goes to the cell, and the cell goes, where is my Amazon order of oxygen? And the truck driver's like, I don't know, lady, I just drive the truck. And she's like, but how are you? Here's my garbage, right? Here's my trash, here's all of my CO2. You're supposed to pick this up. He's like, sorry, lady, I just drive the truck. And he drives off. And she's left holding these garbage bags filled with CO2 with no shipment Amazon product of oxygen. He goes back to the heart and he's talking to all the other truckers. He's like, Jesus, I don't know what happened. This woman just lost it on me. Every other trucker is going, yeah, me too. Holy smokes, our routes are completely messed up. Oh, wait, the gate opened. Problem is they're moving through a hole in the heart. And now they're like, okay, well, now we're back on the highway. Meanwhile, this poor cell has had no Amazon oxygen, and she's just now got garbage bags everywhere of carbon dioxide because nobody's picking up the trash. And the truckers are getting upset because they are carrying now this rotting, produce in the back of their truck. And it's a mess. Does everyone see that little cartoon scenario in their heads? Fabulous. So we have these walls that separate the right side from the left side, and they are called a septum. Anytime you use the word septum, it means a wall. We have a wall here in our nose, in our sinuses. Does somebody on TV Land have a question?